thanks everyone for taking the time and for the opportunity. As you said in the introduction, the number of changes over the past 12 months, 18 months has just been unprecedented. So I run a branding agency that we've been working in the retail space for 30 years this week, would you believe it? And we do a report looking at consumer trends and drivers every year. And I must say and we work with a shopper scientist, and I must say some years it's a little bit ho-hum. It's like not much has changed. This year when we did the report, we were blown away. The report's normally about half the length of this one, but there were so many shifts and changes due to what's occurred that, the report ended up being an absolute blockbuster. So I'll go through the headlines again. We can share the link if you want to go through the report in more detail. And again, we can shout out at the end if there's any particular questions that you have. Well, I don't need to do that now because you've done that for me. All right, so we'll get into it. So without kind of stating the obvious, COVID-19 and the pandemic has had a massive shift on shopper behaviour. So what people bought, how they bought it, when they bought it, how they picked it up, changed quite dramatically through the pandemic. And the question in situations like these is often raised: how much of that behaviour is short-term and a reaction around what has occurred and what's able to be done, and what is going to become, I guess, the new norm going forward. So we did quite a bit of work and research to try and identify what are those key shopper drivers and which of those will be short-term versus those that will be much more long-term. The speed of change, what was interesting, I got work across a number of retailers across categories and of different sizes. It's amazing how those that pivoted very quickly and jumped on it experienced a year of record sales and record profits. Mecca was one of them, and others that didn't move as fast experienced the complete opposite. So definitely jumping on these trends is really important. So in going through the report, and Mark and I went through at least 500 research pieces and data relevant over the last 12 months. And what we did from there is start to identify those key shopper drivers. So the first one that emerged from the research was around, I want to shop anywhere and anytime. So this whole notion around omni-channel retailing, because people are spoilt for choice now and have become a little bit of I want it now and I should be able to shop whenever I want. The second driver which emerged was around, I think shopping should be memorable and fun. The third one was around the importance of corporate social responsibility. So I only buy from retailers I trust and respect. The fourth driver is around the joys that a lot of retailers have in terms of deliveries and returns, particularly from online. So this is around I want it now until I don't, but most of all I don't want to fuss about it. And the fifth driver that we identified was around loyalty. So I want to be made to feel special. So one thing that we do is we, rather than creating a report with lots of data and facts, is we try and channel the mindset and the thought process of the shopper or the consumer. So we always pose the drivers in their words and in their point of view. So I'll jump into the drivers. So the first one, as I said, is around I want to shop anywhere and at any time. And you know, the key trend in here is around successful omni-channel retailing, and that's not just having a bricks and mortar store and an online store. That's the seamless nature about how online, digital, physical, how all of these factors play in the buying behaviour, in the buying cycle of customers. So what we found is that most of the successful retailers in Australia were identified as being omni-channel retailers. And of those, a third sell between 25 and 50% of their products online, which kind of tells me two things. One, that online is really important to the revenue of those retailers. But the flip side of that is with 50 to 75% says to me that the store experience is also critically important. Plays a big part of that. So what was interesting, the key driver, 41% of Australian online shoppers prefer buying from omnichannel retailers compared to only a third who prefer just online pure play. So the role of having store and online is obviously reinforced by the data. One thing we did find though, with majority of Australian consumers shopping across channels, that the expectations of convenience and those factors that are delivered by online has to be apparent in a physical store experience, and vice versa. So what it's done is sort of raise the bar of expectations across all of those aspects. So one thing we found, obviously, COVID-19 caused an absolute acceleration in online shopping, and across most of our businesses, those that were sort of teetering on doing a little bit of online, it accelerated. But what it did was it gave us the sense that when something's taken away from us, we realize how much we value and we appreciate it. So what we found is consumers really longed for aspects of the physical store when they weren't able to enjoy it. And it's the intangible aspects of physical shopping that were most important. So yeah, 28% missed the experience of being in a physical store, and 16% missed that personal service. So what we found is that those tangible and tactical factors are those that really dominated, with the preference to buy things in a physical store. And right at the top, 70% of consumers said that personal care products they valued most from a physical experience. Furniture, 67, which makes sense. You want to see the physical size. You want to be able to sit in it, feel the fabric before you make quite a large purchase. Clothing is a big one, 59%. And I guess that's around the notion of being able to put it on, make sure it fits, feel confident that it's right before you purchase. And beauty products was 56%. So I guess it's high involvement, high consultation that makes that quite important. Interesting, electronics and home entertainment were kind of evenly split, around 50-51% between physical and online. So what was interesting is whilst JB Hi-Fi had an absolute record year online, they actually sell more product and were more effective through their physical store experience. So what we found is the aspects that people valued most out of a physical store experience, right at the top, 67%, being able to hand pick items, pick them up, feel them, identify with confidence that's the right product. Obviously with clothing, being able to try it on. Having face-to-face customer service is valued by 50% of Australians, and being able to test items before you can buy, which I guess when you get into cosmetics and those sorts of things, it's, I guess fragrances would be really important because you can't replicate that online. So that's the physical store aspect. What also emerged is the aspects around online that consumers value the most. And right at the top, it's about the convenience. You can sit on the couch, click of a couple of buttons, even with Apple Pay, off you go and it's purchased. Saves me time. I don't have to worry about parking, getting to places. It's convenient, time saving. The other thing that people valued a lot was being able to price compare and do that very rapidly. So 64% was about convenience, 54% time saving, and 42% being able to facilitate price comparison. Now these percentages, when you think about Australian shoppers, these are quite large percentages. Anything that's sort of above a couple of percent is effectively a majority. So what's interesting, technology is starting to fill the place to create this bridge between online and physical store. And whilst VR is a great example of creating that physical store experience, but using technology and the convenience that technology delivers, it's still at the very, very, very early stages. And we see this as quite a strong trend in the coming years. What we found from a research point of view is, whilst less than 1 in 8 shoppers have actually experienced VR, of those who have used it, 73% say they were really satisfied with the experience. So you've got people who try it, think it's amazing, but a very small number of people have actually tried it. So once a lot of people try it, what will most likely happen is that will become much more mainstream. And then as it becomes more mainstream, the cost drops, which makes it more accessible, which therefore accelerates it becoming mainstream. So we think that that will be something a technology that will grow quite dramatically in the coming years. Augmented reality has been around for a while, helping to overcome as best as technology can around the confidence of choosing a couch or trying on clothing. So even makeup, we saw a lot of innovations. Sephora, I think, have done some virtual makeup using augmented reality. So it's been there for a while, and that's going to be an important bridge between technology and physical store. A couple of trends that popped up through the research, which is really interesting. So 43% of Australians have engaged in what's called showrooming. So that's visiting a physical store, trying on sneakers, trying on clothes, and then searching for them online to purchase. So that's a very common thread. And web rooming, this is where shoppers check out online first. They do all their research, do their comparison, and then they go into store to purchase. What's also interesting, so the line between physical stores and online has become really blurred. So 59% of shoppers use their smartphone when in a physical store. And what they do is 74% price compare, and guilty. Read reviews also to give you that confidence, because you can't always trust the salesperson. And also asking opinions of, wife, husband, kids, friends, other people around. And you often see people in store with their FaceTime on going, hey, what do you think of this? Or do you like this? So that's becoming, quite common with 59% of shoppers using their phones. And it's always good when you see major brands starting to move into this space and create concept stores that address it. So if you jump online and have a look at the Tiffany & Co. Covent Garden store, so this really starts to look at interactive aspects using a lot of digital technology within the store. They've got selfie walls, so picking up on social media, vending machines for dispensing fragrances. So lots of those aspects of technology they're exploring and experimenting within that store. Interesting study we found from Swinburne Business School, really looking at what the different segments of multi-channel shoppers are. So they identified 3 key segments. The first one, which is only 20% of consumers, is around forced channel switching. So what that means is generally when a product's out of stock, rather than a physical store, we'll jump online and we'll try and find it somewhere else, or vice versa. So the next category, representing 22% of Australian shoppers, is planned channel switches. So this is where you're actually actively seeking out the best prices, jumping between channels, jumping between stores. They're generally younger shoppers. The biggest segment that emerged from their research study was, which was 58%, these are opportunistic channel switches. So these are the ones who are motivated by, quite spontaneously by deals, free delivery, price reductions, and promos. So the importance of those in the sales process is huge. And the categories that seem to trigger a lot of that opportunistic channel switching is largely around consumer electronics, clothing, footwear, cosmetics, and toiletries. So it was a really interesting study. Throughout the report, and I'll just call out some of the headlines, we can send through the reports to read in more detail, but Mecca are an amazing business, ticks so many boxes around creating this omni-channel experience, this seamless experience. And when COVID hit, within 24 hours, they completely pivoted the business and created this amazing online experience, which now, based on the success, they had record sales out of their online, will now continue on as a key part of their whole immersive experience. And a couple of great benchmarks to have a look at. So JB Hi-Fi, which really leveraged their physical store experience as part of their omni-channel, even though they had double their sales within the first half of the financial year with online. Burberry, check it out. They've their Shenzhen social retail store uses this amazing app, and you can see some video of it on the website, which replicates the shopper experience in store beautifully with technology. A great omnichannel retailer is Pet Barn, and they won Omnichannel Retailer of the Year in 2020. And everything from their store experience, customer service, staff, product, through to their online experience is equally as good. But what they also did was dial that up even more by offering broader experiences across veterinary clinics, emergency, referral vet. So a lot of other allied services to add to the value of purchasing things in store or online. So they were an amazing business to take a look at. All right, so the second one is around, I think shopping should be fun and memorable, and that's what's going to make me do it more, from the consumer's voice. So there's a great quote there from Simon Witchery. If you're going to encourage someone to leave the house, put down the phone and come into a physical environment, then you need to make that special, and that's what Witchery we're really hoping to do, really to push the dial. So we've heard the term quite a bit about experiential retail. It's been a buzzword for a little while, and I guess in the minds of a lot of retailers, what pops up is, well, no, that's only for big flagship stores of major brands. But if you really think about the notion of experiential, it's just about providing deeper and broader customer experience through service, through sensory aspects, through some entertainment. And there's a number of brands that have done it extremely well. And again, Mecca take this to a whole new level with their Mecca Land experience. So it's this whole, they call it a beauty junkie's heaven. It's just amazing in terms of that entertainment and music and fashion, well beyond the product. The benefits of having an effective experiential store is increases brand awareness. So it sticks in our mind. The more senses that you engage, the more memorable an experience is. Increases visitation, so other people hear about it, want to attend or enter. Conversion rates are much, much higher. Recommendation rates are higher as well. Basket sizes increase, customer loyalty increases, and the ability to sustain a price premium also increases. Also helps you defend against price discounting, and it gives you a point of differentiation. So the benefits of creating a deeply experiential retail environment are absolutely huge. And we see a number of examples. This is the Swarovski's Milan Wonder Lab store. So you can see even just from that image, they've completely thrown out the conventions of a retail store to create something that's magical and and just feels immersive as opposed to being functional and transactional. So some local businesses, so Rebel have really invested heavily in their RCX stores, which is short for retail customer experience. So their first store, I believe, launched in 2020 in Doncaster, and they've just launched, recently launched a Parramatta store as well. So this is about creating as much of an experiential retail store as possible. So you can shoot baskets, kick a football around. They even, in the change rooms, you can change the lighting to be, replicate a basketball stadium or outdoor. So they've really thought about that whole experience. Where are we? I'll flip past that one. We also saw in Doncaster seems to be the place for some firsts. So we saw the Mille Experience Centre, also in Doncaster, really looks at that whole path to purchase for the consumer. So rather than being at the pointy end of the transaction, what they aim to do was be at the research end where people can come in, try the appliances, there's cooking demonstrations, play in the kitchen. So there's a whole lot of experiential things to help people shop around, work with, get a sense of what's the right product. So what we often hear from retailers, they say, that's great, but the big challenge is it requires quite a bit of investment, either in space, financially, or even resources. So what we found is a number of retailers have kind of worked around this by partnering. So we saw David Jones partner up with Blow Bar to set up an experience within their store. And then we saw Sephora take it to a whole nother level in their Pitt Street store with hairstyle services, so the blow on the go, brow services with beauty studios, Sephora University, and range of things. So they've really taken that whole notion of creating experiences to a whole new level. I'll call it a couple of these. So what we've found is Westfield have sort of reframed their thinking around these retail environments and understanding that most likely the footprint is going to shrink, because as retailers may move more to digital and reduce their footprint, that they need to rethink their proposition. So they're renaming their stores as living centres, and they're renaming 42 of those locations. So they're really looking to say, how do we take more of a life approach rather than just a collection of retail stores. So Procter & Gamble have taken the notion of making it fun by creating this online My Home campaign. And what this does, it's all microsite, and there's games, there's tips, there's tricks to really get people engaged in what are effectively low interest products. And if you've not checked out a Gentle Monster store, jump online, do a Google images search. Crazy. So Gentle Monster and an eyewear showroom, and the number of eyewear stores is crazy how you differentiate, but they've just gone nuts and created almost like sculpture galleries that you just feel transformed when you walk in, but they're selling eyewear. It's amazing. All right, so number 3 is I only buy from retailers I trust and respect. So corporate social responsibility has been on the agenda for well over a decade with businesses, and I've sat through so much market research where consumers have said, yes, it's really important, but it's never really translated to any changes in either paying a premium or choosing between one product or retailer than another. All of that based on our research and data over the last 12 months has changed quite dramatically. And there's a couple of reasons for that. So one is around, when there's a major event like COVID-19 forces us to rethink our values and looking after the planet, looking after ourselves and future generations. That became a lot more important. You also have a generational shift. So millennials now occupy the biggest sector of the buying sector of the market, and the youngest of the millennials is now 18, so moving now to an adult. So that market itself are very pro-social, and so you've got those two tensions have really accelerated, and the numbers that we're seeing I've never seen as significant before. So 87% of Australian shoppers are more likely to purchase products that are sustainable and ethically produced, which is huge. And 85% would like retailers and brands to be more transparent about their origins and sustainability of their products. So they're enormous numbers in market research. We're doing a major project with Kmart at the moment on their whole sustainability. So lots of research in that space has really supported that trend. So unpacking corporate social responsibility. So social being right at the top, environment number 2, transparency and ethics around supply chain, and economic as well. So the thing that accelerates trends is when mainstream brands, part of supermarket shopping is part of everyday life for pretty much all of Australians. When they embrace it and make it a big part of their offer, that again accelerates that trend. So what do we find? 44% of shoppers like it when retailers support causes. That's really important. And 46% want support to be given around green or sustainable products and practices. So some big numbers there. And we've seen Coles make quite a bit of a headway in that space. Reusable and refillable containers, provision of cardboard boxes to take home, cutting out as much plastic, natural refrigeration, utilising recycled shopping trolleys, and also donating unsold food to charities. And in the non-food space, we've also seen retailers make significant initiatives in this area. So David Jones really launching their Mindfully Made hub on their website. So this is where featuring dozens of those brands that meet their supplier code of conduct. So being Australian made, community minded, sourced with care, reduce and recycle, and being kind to animals. So they've identified these brands, created a mindfully made area, and then really tried to push that. And likewise, Country Road has also taken a multi-pronged approach to that. So one of the aspects is around this interactive global supplier map, showing transparently where a lot of their products come from. And Patagonia has always been the benchmark. It's absolutely the core of their DNA, of their proposition, their reason for being. It's right across all of their promo, their products. So that's ingrained in that business. They've always been a leader in that space. So not only are retailers getting behind corporate social responsibility, but we're finding a lot of shopping centres as well, which should be interesting to you guys. So in 2020, we saw Westfield announcing its target to achieve net zero carbon emissions by 2030, as well as a bunch of other sustainability initiatives. We also saw, from a community point of view, from a social point of view, they operating their local heroes community grants and a recognition program. We also saw Mirvac focused on the arts and inclusivity. So they were supporting the LGBTQ community and the NAIDOC week. So what we found from a lot of this is the fact that it's becoming mainstream, it's embraced by major brands, that shoppers will expect it to be an absolute core part of the offer, and it'll be mandatory for all businesses. And again, it's worth having a look at the Coles Moonee Ponds store. So that's their prototype around the most sustainable shopping experience. All right, the fourth consumer driver is around, I want it now until I don't. So this is around delivery and returns, which is again often the bane of the existence of many online retailers. And there's a quote there around a poor delivery and returns experience have become a major deal breaker for most Aussie consumers. So we were forced in many ways to go online last year. And what that did was put a lot of pressure on online, but also when we had good online experiences, the bar was raised. And when we had bad experiences, it became a deal breaker and a very bad perception of that particular retailer. So we did become very savvy online shoppers. And what we also found was a generation that were resistant to technology, so baby boomers and older, were forced to use it and went, okay, you know what, it's quite good. It's not that hard. I can do that. So some stats around there, for example, we're making decisions around, so online and delivery is really important. So when making decisions around delivery, price is extremely important. So 50% of Australian shoppers said what you charge for online is really important to my purchasing decision. What we found, free delivery was an absolute guaranteed catch people's attention. 92% of shoppers said free delivery is the most important factor when choosing between retailers online. So, and that's that tension for retailers. There's a huge cost in, depending on your product, if you're selling fridges or couches, for free delivery, but it's a deal breaker for a lot of consumers. So we found some tensions as well in the data. So 90% of consumers said, I want free delivery. But what we found is only 14% of shoppers didn't buy a product if it didn't offer free delivery. So it wouldn't stop us from buying that product that we loved for 14%. 58% still paid for delivery. So whatever that was, more than 58% of consumers said, I'm still going to buy it. But what was interesting, 63% of shoppers abandoned their cart if the cost was too high. So if people found a product they loved, they'd still buy it if it didn't have free delivery. They'd still pay for it, but if it was way too high, forget about it.
Nothing is more frustrating than putting a bunch of stuff in your cart and then you get to the end and you find out the postage is like $15 and you're like, this thing is tiny. There's no way it's going to cost $15. And I wholeheartedly can understand why people desert their carts. It's just annoying that you don't know up front, or at least the postage isn't relative to what you think the experience is going to be.
Yeah. And all the retailers who have seen these stats all of a sudden, because they've been wrestling with, well, we have to charge for it, and maybe if we sneak it down the end, people will still. But when they saw these stats, they go, you have to build it in. Now, there's an interesting kind of psychology as well, where, and it's interesting. So we become very, very savvy. So what we do is we found ways to kind of get around paying for it or avoiding it. So the first thing 82% of consumers do is just choose the standard delivery option if it's free. So rather than paying more for it to be delivered faster or with a signature. 79% say, you know what, I'm not going to buy it now. I'm just going to watch out for promos and flash sales. And quite often, if you're retargeted, you'll get a free delivery. And that's where you go, great, I'll just wait for that and then I'll purchase. Others will just choose a different method, like I might go pick it up in store. But 59% actually choose a different retailer. So if that product I want isn't for free, I'm going to go somewhere else, which is a big number. But this is an interesting one too. So 59% of consumers say, oh, if I spend $10 more, I'll save $10 on the delivery. But so 59% will actually spend more to get to a threshold to get the free delivery. So go figure. But to your point, this is an interesting one. 84% of shoppers abandon their cart if they find out too late. So the critical stat there is if you're going to charge, it's got to be upfront and early. But if you can build it in and create some ways that people can get it for free, then that's the bonus. Speed of delivery was really important. I think most retailers that we'd spoken to prior to this report always thought they were chasing, how do we get it same day? That's what everybody wants. Not so. Only 8% of shoppers say that that's important. So although 2/3 will abandon the cart if it's going to take too long. So there's got to be a sweet spot. I don't expect it to arrive today, but if it's going to be weeks or whatever, and again, it's relative to the product, then I'll abandon. So you just got to find that sweet spot. But what's really interesting, what's most important over and above the speed of delivery is when it's delivered. So one of the key things was around status updates. 80% of consumers said, yeah, I'm not as fussed about when it arrives as long as I get status updates, as long as I can amend that and say, you know what, deliver it to work because I'm going to be at work on that day. And continuous, tracking is critical with 57%. Text messaging was the #1 method that people preferred to get that tracking, followed by email. So what was interesting about delivery times, 63% of shoppers wanted the ability to choose the time slots, and 47% wanted it to be on weekend, and 42% after hours. So, some decent statistics around the reasons not to actually deliver it during working hours on the same day. That's right, I'll jump past that one, just interest of time. So the returns aspect is, again, the bane of existence, both for retailers and for consumers. So it can be expensive and frustrating for retailers. There's a whole lot of wastage of products. And for consumers, it's just annoying. And if I'm charged for it, it's expensive. So there's lots of retailers trying to work around how do you minimize the aspect of returns. One trend we found is bracketing. So what shoppers will do is say, look, I'm not sure if I'm a small, medium or large. That's an extreme example. I'll order all 3 and I'll just send back the ones that don't fit. So 60%, this is a US stat, we couldn't find an Australia one, would participate in bracketing. Then was there bracketing, and there was another one. That's right, I'll come back to that one. So some other initiatives that brands have developed to try and overcome that frustration of incorrect sizing and incorrect fitting. So we've got, where are we? Pixabo Fit. So that's a centre in Singapore. So this is where shoppers can try on items that they've reserved online. So jump online and say, I want to buy this, but then in a pop-up store, they can try it on and go, great, I'm happy to go ahead with that transaction. We saw Amazon Prime address that head on by offering customers the ability to choose 8 items on a 7-day trial period, so that no questions asked. But we also saw it triggered a growth in renting clothing. So Glam Corner has had huge acceleration in their growth. So since 2012, and they've set up through Country Road, David Jones, and other mainstream brands. It was interesting. What popped up in our research was around Maya and their initiative to partner up with Amazon. So what was that, 2017 that kicked off, so relatively recent. And there's been some interesting commentary on it. So Gary Mortimer is a key retail commentator, wondered whether Maya had taken into account the extra operating costs in receiving and processing the packages, and whether because of the footfall that will create, whether that will balance up the cost. But we'll keep an eye out. I'm keen to chat to Maya to find out how is it tracking and is it worthwhile, because it could signal either the future, instead of trying to fight the behemoth that Amazon is, working with it, and then are there financial and loyalty and customer benefits in partnering up, because that might they may pave the way for other retailers. And in the report, there's just some examples of ASOS, Pixabo, and MySize using technology. So the last driver is around that whole notion of loyalty, which has always been the kind of holy grail for retailers over the years. And we all know there's the stats behind customer loyalty versus acquiring new customers. So what we found in the research is that loyalty programs are becoming absolutely ubiquitous with Australian shoppers. And from what we've studied in terms of the US market, there's still a long way to go. But what we found is that 89% of Australians are enrolled in at least one loyalty program. So it's huge market penetration. And what we found also is, on average, each shopper has 4.4 loyalty programs. So that's an average, which means some people who have none, others might have 10. So it's quite a significant number. What we also found is shoppers said that 68% of shoppers say it enhances their experience with the brands. That's a big number, and 63% claim that it's actually changed the way they view the organisation, so in terms of their shopping behaviour. But this is probably a number that indicates the potential and the growth that's yet to come with the area. So 63% of shoppers still feel that they haven't really taken true advantage of those loyalty. A couple of us spoke the other day about, Dan Murphy loyalty card. I've got it. I always pull it out on my phone when I'm there, and we all looked at each other and said, does anyone know what you actually get? Has anyone kind of used? But we're like, we scrambled to find the card in our phone. That's exactly what's happened there. It's what we're finding too. So rather than just retailers, we're seeing shopping centres develop loyalty in this space. And we saw Westfield launch in 2020. 2020 was a big year for innovation. Their Westfield Plus card, and they've already got 1.2 million members. So the uptake, the market penetration, has been huge, and that's in a relatively short period of time. And if you consider, between 2020 and now, there was a big chunk of kind of interrupted retail business. So that's sort of showing the possibilities for retailers. The other aspect of making the shopper feel special is that nebulous term of customer engagement and customer experience. And as you start to see through this report, there are many, many more opportunities to create amazing customer engagement through technology, through store experience, through tactility, through all of these aspects. So definitely worth looking. KPMG each year does a customer experience excellence study. It's worth having, even going back through some of the past years. And 2020, KPMG named First Choice Liquor the winner. And when you look through the report as to why they won that award, they said they just got all the basics right. So they didn't have this amazing piece of technology or innovation that the world hasn't seen. They just got all of those basics exceptionally well done. So customers highlight a product range, availability, value for money, enjoyable purchasing experience, friendly, cheerful staff, helpful staff. So that was some of the key foundations. We also found, just as a subset of that report, is around, you often think that with customer service that there's no room to get things wrong, that customers are now unforgiving because they have so many choices, but we actually found not so. The difference is, and this was with 99% of Australian shoppers that were interviewed, indicated that they would still shop with a retailer after a catastrophic error if it was resolved quickly. So what that meant is, you can't be perfect and every experience can't be great, but what is absolutely critical is act fast, remedy it quickly. So customer service is always a major challenge for those online retailers. So it's customer service generally is seen as when all those interactions, when someone walks in a store, making eye contact or be with you in a moment, helping them out. It's always been a little bit of a challenge for online because of the kind of arm's length nature. But what we've seen as far as technologies that help, obviously live chat is a big area, and a lot of retailers said, but do people really use it? Do people value it? So what we found is that twice as many shoppers would switch retailers for live chat. So people do value it. And the reason is because when you're online shopping, generally, remember, it's about convenience, it's about price shopping. And so often if you're making a convenient purchase, I don't want to have a lot of time calling somebody and being on hold, and then the niceties, you want to be as efficient as possible. And the great thing about chat, again, I can still be on the couch with my Ugg boots, is you can just very quickly get the answer that you want. I mean, if you want more of an engaging tactile experience, that's what the retail physical store's for. So 45% of shoppers have used live chat, at least once to ask for advice. That's a decent number of people who actually use it. And we saw Q had invested heavily in using AI. So what they wanted to do is take live chat to a whole new level and make it responsive, make it hyper personalized, and definitely worth looking into that. So a big part of physical store and creating experiences is around customer engagement. And there's been a great example. Definitely check out Dan Murphy in South Melbourne. So they've done a complete kind of like a flagship store or a test store, which is all about improving this customer centric experience. So a big part of Dan Murphy is around education, and they're also using technology. So what they're doing again is the wine and spirits tasting. They have resident wine merchants, so that expertise that you can get from people. Micro classes they also do to really create great engagement. What else have they done? Oh, they also use technology because they understand that, I guess, the benefit of going to a Dan Murphy store is to, explore, to try, to learn about new things, to get that advice. So what they've tried to do to try and scale cost effectively the customer service and the information is investing in what's called near field communications, or NFC. And these are shelf labels that enable shopper to really access a lot more product information and reviews through smartphones. So again, we saw, what was it, 67% of shoppers use their smartphone in the store. So run with that, use that near field technology so they can go, I want to find out more, and then that saves having double the staff. So that's definitely worth checking out. We found one other trend, which was around, I'll jump past the muscle chef, was around streaming. So streaming was really, really popular. We saw that Mecca used it to their advantage through COVID. And with some of the stats in here, which is, so here we go. The platform was extremely successful with the number of live streams increasing 7 times. And what they found is the number of live streaming events, fourfold. Oh, here we go. This is the key stat I was looking for. Gross merchandise volumes lifted nearly 10 times during live streaming events. So this is Alibaba, which is the Asian version of eBay. And by doing live streaming on products, that is a huge number. And it makes sense when you're seeing a live streamed discussion or review or product demonstration. Often you're sold and you want to buy right now because you can. It's online and technology. So 10 times during live streaming events. So hence that's why they uplifted them 7 times and created more events. So there are a couple of call outs in terms of great benchmarks in loyalty. So Ritchie's, quite generally a traditional brand, but in 2020, again, the year of innovation, they introduced a new loyalty program. And this was to replace the traditional card with a downloadable app. So using technology, again, because we know 67% of consumers use their smartphone. And this is where it's more than just product and product loyalty. So they can donate directly to their favorite club, charity, or school. You can swap chosen donation destinations using the app. But also has a little bit of entertainment as well, so interactive games and competition. So apparently that's working really well. KitKat did some amazing work with their live streaming chocolatory, I think that's the correct pronunciation, and they found again online sales went nuts during this experience. And I spoke earlier about the Westfield Plus program, definitely worth kind of mystery shopping that to see how it works, and we saw the uptake of that was phenomenal. So with 1 minute and 12 seconds to spare in my 30 minute, that's the overview of the key drivers. And to recap, the first one is around the omni-channel retailing, and seamless omni-channel retailing is critical because consumers shop that way. There isn't, the one shopper will seamlessly shop online, in-store, and for different products and move around. There isn't just a type of consumer. It's a mind state, and it's also based around the particular product. So it's critical that all retailers give shoppers the ability to use technology, even within the store, but also out of store to enjoy that shopping experience. The role of the physical store now, because I shop online for convenience, so when I want to go into a physical store, I expect that it's immersive and it has to dial up in that. And so I think those that are really dialing up the theatre, making it memorable and fun, are the ones that are enjoying a lot of those benefits that I mentioned earlier around increased loyalty, basket size, returns, referrals, all of those factors which all translate to revenue and profitability. We found corporate social responsibility is at an absolute all-time high, and we believe that will continue because of the pro-social group of millennials that are occupying a large volume of the shopper market. Online delivery and returns has to be seamless, has to be pain-free, and loyalty is critical. It's a differentiator, and it's what customers use to continue shopping with that brand, to feel loyal, and also to create a competitive advantage around other retailers.